Awesome, guys. Well, welcome back to the Unspoken Truth podcast, where the mission is to hear the story, to have the margarita conversation instead of the Diet Coke one, and to share the amazingness and the superpower of every woman that comes on the podcast. My name is Paige Brown, certified leadership and shadow work coach, nationally certified counselor with over 16 years of experience in shadow work and self-sabotage. Today, we are blessed with a woman who has a huge name. We are blessed with Reverend Joanne Angel BarryColon. BarryColon. Did I say it right?
Yes,
BarryColon.
you did.
Okay. Yes, good. Okay. She is the founder of Wholistic Fitness New York LLC. She has over 40 years of experience in health, fitness, nutrition, and wellness, and has blended many healing modalities into her practice over the last 15 years. Reverend Joanne is a holistic integrative teacher, certified holistic personal trainer, Reiki master, medical astrologer, master of numerology, and has a BS in health, fitness, and nutrition from Empire State University. So we were just talking about the Mercury in retrograde that we were experiencing. So no wonder you were very familiar with that and everything that was going on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we're recording this obviously earlier than it is airing. It is currently March 13th, and we are in the middle of Mercury retrograde. We are in the middle of also the lunar eclipse tonight, and I had to switch platforms to record this, so it's been one of those days. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast with me, talk about what you're passionate about, talk about your entire story. And I'm just looking forward to getting to know more about you, because this is a new relationship we're starting. And then also for you to share what you do with everybody that's listening. So tell us about yourself.
Well, to start off with, thank you so much for having me and giving me the space so I can share. And yes, with all this energy we do have with the shadow period of Mercury retrograde that's happening on the 15th, literally a day after this super lunar eclipse, full moon in Virgo's energy. I think that alone says it all. And when we have an eclipse energy, it really means that the full moon is on steroids. So
Yeah.
everything is amplified by 10, by tenfold. So all that being said, and with Paige and I finally getting here together with all the loops that we had to jump through to get here, a little bit about me is, as Paige already said, I am the founder of Holistic Fitness and Why. I serve, teach, and help women in midlife, to be specific, any woman over the age of 55, helping them to really work on releasing emotional weight so they never have to diet again. I have a non-conventional approach to how I work with women based on my holistic, with a W, as the whole person, focusing on their physical, their mental, their emotional, aligning them into their spiritual well-being, and just giving them the platform so they can do what they need to do as they go what I like to call under construction with their physical body and their emotions, to restructure their foundation so they're willing and ready to be seen and heard and share what they came here to share based on their soul's purpose.
Oh my goodness, I love that. That was a mouthful, but I absolutely loved all of it. I relate to that a lot, and I don't specialize in the diet nutrition pieces. Like, I know you're saying don't diet, and I totally agree with you. I think what's worked with me lately, and I'm 41, is just looking at it as just like, this is a lifestyle, right? Like, this is what I'm doing now as my whole purpose and my whole self. And working on the internal is so key for that, because there's so many women who they'll start the workout program. I don't want to say diet because I know you don't like that word, but like, it's like they think it's a diet, they think it's a workout program, they think it's just these things, and that, oh, if I get here then I'll feel better. But it's really sometimes about, I think all the time, really about feeling better first before you can actually get to that next goal.
Yes.
I
And
find then that,
to feel better, they have to have the energy
yeah.
to feel better. And it's not that I don't like the word diet. I think we have been overdosed with
Yes.
the word diet. And with the word diet, it means we're literally restricting ourselves from what we actually need, which is the energy for us to do the things that we need to do. One of the reasons why women have such um, a stigma regarding not feeling enough, not being able to show up, not wanting to share, is because they've been restricted for so long, restricting their calories, being told not to do it this way, not to eat it this way. And when we think about our words, because words have power, it's not
Yes.
just about don't have the cake, don't have the pizza. That literally gets translated into you can't do this, you can't do that. Because
Yes.
it's, as I like to say, the universe isn't just hearing it as food. The universe hears you're going to restrict yourself with everything you're doing. And along with restricting their dietary habits, their nutrition, their energy flow, they're restricting their energy in itself.
Yes.
So there's no way possible that they have the few words I'm hearing, the willpower to be able to stand and withstand all the things they want to do, and then the stamina to do what they need to do. And here's the big one, the confidence.
Yes.
Because up until this point, they have been restricting themselves. So they're shrinking themselves. I mean, women really truly believe that they're supposed to be the small, tiny person. And when we're
Yes.
small and tiny, we don't take up space. We're not even seen. So we shrink ourselves. And we're in an energetic space right now, universally speaking, that we need to take up a lot of space
Hmm.
energetically, and we need to allow ourselves to expand energetically so we can really be seen. So we have to really clear cut and let go of these philosophies and learnings that we have been conditioned and programmed to believe for our lifetime.
Hmm.
And with my non-conventional approach, this is what I do. This is how I serve women. In regards to when a woman comes to me, it really is about, we're not going to focus on how much you weigh. I don't care how much you weigh. Because reality of it all is whatever that number is, it's going to look very different 12 months down the road as you go through the construction, the under construction, and transforming your foundation. So if you come in weighing 200 pounds at 5'2", you may leave 12 months down the road at 200 pounds, but look chiseled at
Hmm.
200 pounds. I also have this approach where it's a natural approach, where it's not about supplements, it's not about fat burners, because in reality a fat burner is just basically like what's the word I'm looking for, like Red Bull, being on Red
Yeah.
Bull all day long with your metabolism, blah, 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 blah. And really all that's doing to you is creating unnecessary anxiety in your nervous system,
Hmm.
as opposed to allowing yourself to be in the natural state of being um strong and
Yes.
defined, as opposed to shredded, because no one's shredded all year round who's actually natural.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can look at any male that, I would say projects into that natural. Like I always, The Rock always comes to mind, right? He's always like, "Oh,
Yes.
I'm not on anything. I'm not." That's crap. That's complete crap. And I loved what you were saying too. And this is a message that I've been getting a lot lately. Not only just from people in my life and hearing it, but it's just been coming through a lot lately of really being seen and like taking up space, right? Taking up space in the positive way for women, right? And it's why I feel I was called to create this podcast. I really want people to be able to tell their stories, to get to the root of like, why they're doing this to begin with, because like my story is a little different where I came from. I'm not doing health in the style that you are doing health, but I'm doing a lot of like that wellness coaching where it's like from the inside out, right?
Yes.
And my story came from the fact that I was at 23 years old ready to end my life, right? And that was literally the steps that I took to come out of that hole for myself, right? So I've been doing this work since I was 23 years old. Whereas like there are some women right now, and I think you see this a lot too, because you're working with people in their 50s typically, and my age range tends to sort of like, I would say right now, precursor yours, right? So I'm getting a lot of 35 to 55 age range women, and it's like they're waking up right now in like this almost like midlife situation going like, I have been small my whole life. and I
Yes.
don't want to be small anymore. And I think that
Yes.
this is like a global awakening that people are feeling right now. And it's about women being able to be seen. And I always talk to my ladies and I go, I want you seen, heard, and understood and held in this space regardless, right? I don't
Hmm.
care what background you come from. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your story was. It's your story to tell. I just want you to be held in that space, right? And I
Yes.
think that society has taken a lot of that from people in general. I mean, I hear this from men too, but I feel like, a lot of places it's like you feel so small and you want to be heard and it's like this like ache to come out of your body, right? Um why did you start to do this? I know you've been doing it for 15 years, but why did you start to do this?
Actually, I've been doing this for over 40 years.
Oh yeah, that's
15.
right. That's
So
15
yes,
for the other. Yeah.
the last 15 years, I've actually blended many healing modalities into the practice. But why I started doing what I'm doing, well, to start off with, when I was 12 years old, I just had the calling. I had this opportunity to teach back then what's called a gymnastics class. Today, we might call that a body sculpting class or a
Hmm.
calisthenics class. And from that very moment is when I knew I was meant to help women transform their physical body. In the last 15 years, I've taken what I knew at 12 and was given all these amazing healing modalities and realized that, wait a minute, there's something more to this than just a physical body. It's like you were saying earlier, Paige, where your practice is about the wellness going within. And that's exactly my practice because everything
Hmm.
starts from within.
Yeah.
Everything literally stems from the emotion. So, for example, when someone does come to me wanting to quote unquote lose weight, my question to them is, well, let's think about when you started quote unquote putting on the weight. What was going on in your life at the time when you started seeing the weight come in? Because when we think about the word weight, obesity, or fat, metaphysically, what that really just means is that the person, the woman, even the man, has built a psychological wall around them, which shows up physically around them,
Yes.
to protect them from something or someone. And the
Yep.
only way that one is really going to be able to chop down that psychological and physical wall is getting to the root cause to why they call that wall in. The emotional
Yes.
connection, what was going on at that time. And once they can address that storyline to what was going on at that time, without even changing the way we eat, the minute they talk about it, the minute they allow themselves to go into that space and becoming vulnerable enough to share that story, they begin that process of literally releasing the emotional connection. And once we release the emotional connection, when we make that decision that we're no longer connected to something, everything's a game changer.
Oh yeah.
Everything's a game changer. Everything will all of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden the universe comes in and starts moving all the pieces. Anything
Yeah.
that's no longer aligned with who you are, all of a sudden this transformation occurs. And I've literally witnessed this with clients that with them working with me with just a short 4 weeks. And I'm not saying this based on a fad diet. I'm saying that within a short 4 weeks of them having this conversation with me, speaking out that emotional connection, 4 weeks later, they literally look different.
Oh
4 weeks
yeah.
later. Just because they release the emotional connection to the very thing that they have been holding on to. And
Yeah.
then they move into that process of reconstructing their physical body so they can become stronger. And it's
Oh
like
yeah.
you said earlier, Paige, where women are tired of being small and tired of not being seen. So it's taking on this new evolution, this new empowerment of we want to be strong. We want to show up strong. Strong in reference that we our bodies look strong. Because when our bodies look strong, we then show up confidently because our bodies look strong. And we can look strong at whatever weight it is. In
Yeah.
fact, it's actually an advantage to have weight on us as we get older. Like once we
Hmm.
hit 65, 70, and older, it is so important to make sure you have weight. That when you get on that scale, it says something. Because otherwise, if not, you're more prone to, God forbid, as you're stepping, you miss your step, you fall. And if your body is not supported with muscle, you're going to
Hmm.
fall and break something. And the chances of you recovering from that fall is so slim, everything goes downhill from then.
Yeah.
So, answer to your question, long story, long answer. Reason why I got into doing what I'm doing is because, again, I think spiritually, it's my calling.
Yes.
And I like to break the rules. I
Yeah.
like to break the rules. I like to be the disruptor. I like to go against what everyone else is saying because it really is really interesting where there's so many professionals out there who's talking about, in regards to, 10,000 steps a day and having to move more. In fact, I just did a live a little while ago talking about, because after I did my workout today, in my workout, I got this revolution. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, wait a minute. We constantly keep talking about adding more movement into our day because we
Yeah.
need movement, but yet the reality is we're also not talking about adding more calories into our day. The more movement we do in our day, the more calories we need in our day because we need to make sure our muscle stays full. If
Hmm.
we're not replacing the calories, what's going to happen is our muscle our body is going to start eating the muscle because all that is stored energy. And then what happens to the muscle starts to get flat. And
Hmm.
in layman's terms, starts to get flabby.
Hmm.
So you look at a woman who may say she works out and you're looking at her body and you're trying to figure out, well, if you work out, why are you not more, the word they use is toned. It's a made
Yeah.
up word. There's no such word as tone. But the idea is, why is your muscles not full? And the
Hmm.
reason being is they're not eating enough to fill the muscle. They're doing the strength training, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're spending more time in the cardiovascular room than the strength training room. And that we have to change. We have to get more women. And I did a live about this the other night. We have to get more women away from the little pink or fluorescent pastel weights and get them to get the iron. Like literally, it was like, okay, have you ever noticed that when you're in a weight room that there aren't any colorful weights when they go past 5 pounds
Oh
in
yeah.
the weight room?
Yeah.
They're iron. It's like, well, where are all the pretty weights? Because the pretty weights are not going to get you the
Yeah.
results you're looking to get to. It's a starting point, but it's a starting point for a very short period of time, and then there's a progression point. I like to call it progressive overload strength training is what we need to be doing in order to constantly see the results we're looking to see so we can be strong and take up energetic space.
Well, and that's the thing, like it's really, and I was having a conversation on one of the other episodes with a woman who thinks very much like you with, the muscle building and everything, and works with the older population, and I absolutely love that because I see it in my gym. Like the women lifting heavy and like actually moving to, like, we call it the center rack because like there's like a wall racks and then there's a center rack with heavier stuff. And it's so cool to see women just doing that for themselves and like believing that they can and not shying away from it. And I was working out the other day next to, I think she's in her 60s. I want to say like 60, 62. And she's like been out benching me like on dumbbells. I'm like, you go, girl. Like, I can't, and not saying that I would just because of my age gap, but just like looking at somebody who's in their 60s and actually willing to pick up 50-pound weights is insane, right? Because that's not what you see. And I think it's about breaking that stereotype of like how women fit in a box, right? In
Mhm.
general, for everything and how we show up and how we can just show up for ourselves. And I love how you say like just releasing that tie to that emotional thought that we have, right? Like because you're right, that is the self-protection. I work in that in the chakra work with, I combine chakra and shadow work because of the fact that there's blocks. And it's like once you release that block, I mean, and I'm not even in the health space like in terms of that, but I can see differences in my clients. And I mean, just to see it in their faces and in their, just in the shadows of their faces, right? Like, because a lot of times we're carrying some things that are so heavy, and
Yes.
like giving them permission to release it. And it's so refreshing for me to actually even do this podcast because and inviting all of you guys in here is because there's so many health coaches out there, and I'm sure you can like relate to this even more than I can because I've worked with a lot of health coaches, and I've just in my own health journey, and I'm friends with a lot of health coaches. And it seems like a lot of them, maybe some of the younger ones, or new to the space, and they do forget that there is like an emotional component, you know? And I actually had a conversation in a hallway at a networking event a few weeks ago with a health coach. And I said, do you ever hit the emotional barriers with your clients? Like, you know, they're not pushing for it, or they're not losing the weight for whatever reason, or they still feel like that little fat kid inside, you know what I mean? Like I always say, like, the fat girl inside,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And she's like, no, if they lose the weight they'll feel better. And I'm like, I was so shocked at that response because I was like, how long have you been doing this? Right? Like, seriously. And it's such a cool thing for me to see that there is an awakening in the health space, I feel, that's happening. And I have a friend of mine who's in that as well. And she's striving to learn more about the inner workings of, like, people, women in general, because of that, you know. And um it's why I started this podcast. It's why I wanted people to hear this stuff, because it's such, like you said, a holistic with a W, like the whole person experience.
Yes.
And that's how life is. The life is not
Exactly.
just about your mind or your body. It's an integration of both, you know. And
Exactly.
it's just I just love this conversation because it's so refreshing to hear on so many levels how
Mhm.
deep that work goes, you know.
Exactly. And when we speak on the emotional component, I'm going to bring some astrology and chakras into this conversation, because this is what I do with my clients. Because again, my non-conventional approach to how I do this
I
and
love it.
why it's so different and why I stand out in my industry when we talk about our emotions. Such as when you were saying about that other coach who said, "Oh, well, once they get to their goal, they'll be happy, they'll feel good." When we think about our emotions change day to day.
Hmm.
I mean, we opened the conversation up earlier with the lunar eclipse full moon. The
Hmm.
moon itself transits every 2.5 days from either a fire sign to an earth sign to an air sign to a water sign. Every 2.5 days, so within a 7 day period, we are experiencing three of the four elements within a 7 day period. And depending on what your or my moon sign is going to add to that emotional
Oh
level.
yeah.
So, for example, I'm a Aquarius moon. So, in theory, I'm a visionary. I'm a thinker. I'm an overthinker. I research. I analyze shit to death. And depending on what's going on and where the actual moon is, like our moon right now is in Earth. So in theory, being in Earth, it's grounded, it's more balanced, it's more protected. However, on the flip side of that, it could be distracting, it could be overwhelming, it could be ADHD where we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're all over the place. And sometimes that can show up in reference to our results when we're working out. Can
Yep.
we stay focused enough to get to that result we're looking to get to in that short term workout? Now we
Hmm.
take the energies of the moon and then we talk about the energy that we're holding in our bodies. Now, again, now what I'm going to talk a little bit about here is the chakras, and also for all those women out there who think they're experiencing perimenopause and menopause, the reality of it is our three lower chakras, the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus. Now, our
Hmm.
solar plexus chakra is where our confidence is. It's
Hmm.
where our willpower is. It's where we feel strong enough to literally step up and do what we came here to do. Now, because we've been restricting ourselves for so long, so many women have that bloat going on in their
Hmm.
midsection because they have not allowed themselves to fully expand and exhale. We're holding our breaths, so we're not exhaling. We're not allowing our sacral chakra, where all our creativity comes into play. We're not allowing ourselves to be fully creative and tapping into our true desires. And I don't
Yeah.
know if this show is X-rated or not, so I'm going. If you need to blurt it out, you can. I mean, when we think about it, I ask my women this all the time. When was the last time you had an orgasm?
Yeah.
You know, reference to life. If you're not having an orgasm every time in your day, especially during your workouts, there's something wrong. It means that that sacral chakra is not firing up. And
Yeah.
then we have our root chakra, which is where we move into the space of, do I feel safe?
Yeah.
Do I feel safe enough to show up as me?
Mm-hmm.
where I don't have to pretend to be somebody else. I don't have to wear this mask. I can literally show up as me, transparent, authentic, powerful. So when we can work those three lower chakras, all the other chakras will just open because
Oh
we
yeah.
literally allow our energy to explode. And this is what I do when I work with clients. It's like, okay, when I connect with a client energetically, I can tell right off the bat whether they're having a good day or a bad day. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? Because if you're having a bad day before you start your workout, we need to refocus you so you can focus in on what your goal is.
Yeah.
And making that connection to what do we need to release today? What are you carrying? Are you carrying yesterday's stuff? Are you carrying your children's energy? Are you carrying your husband's energy? Are you carrying the universal energy? You got to put it down
Yeah,
because you're
I
not going to
agree.
be able to restructure you if you're carrying everyone else's emotions.
Well, and that's like I had this conversation this morning, and there's purpose to everything. There is no coincidence anymore in my life. There is a reason why all of these things pop up when they're supposed to. And it's so funny, but like I love this conversation because I have this conversation daily with my clients because in my world where I've worked from, it's the living and existing in the brain, and like, how do I fix this? How do I understand this? How do I get around like understanding this emotion or this pain or this problem I'm having? And it's why I used to be a counselor. I was a counselor for 12 years, but it's why I left that side of it in a lot of ways, because it keeps you up here. And that's only like a blip of healing, right? Like versus if you can actually go all the way in and actually understand where your blocks are, and then go through, releasing the blocks and then understanding the emotional pain that is causing that. Because for me, I work with a lot of women who have been in trauma. And so that's a whole other level when you're talking about a block, right? And I agree with you. It's like those last three chakras, and for me, even all the way to the heart chakra, are the big ones that I have to release for them, because they hurt. They're in pain. And it's because somebody they trusted let them down. Somebody they trusted caused that pain. And so
Well,
my
here's one better. When you
yeah.
talk about someone they trusted let them down, they let themselves down because
Oh
they're
yeah,
not
they did.
trusting their own self in that
Yes, now.
energy, in that whole process. Is that they're not trusting their own choices. Now, something I do with clients, which I often find it really funny, especially when we have clients who aren't really allowing themselves to feel their feels. I literally give them the hardest workout possible so they can cry.
Yeah.
So because when they can get that place where the tears start to come out, they're not necessarily crying because of the workout. They're crying because they have all these stored emotions that they have never allowed themselves to address, and that it finally comes out. And
Yeah.
that could be the very beginning to them releasing what they need to release so they can move into that transformation they're looking to move into.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It's that release, and it's the healthy release, and
Yeah.
it's not the I'm just releasing this in a random moment, right? Like this is a intentional release moment. That's what it is. And it's allowing them that safe space to have that. And I agree with you. It is that trust that they're not having in themselves. It was like it started with somebody else initially, and then
Yes.
it morphed into I'm not trusting myself. Even if even if they're still looking outside, this is a trust in themselves that they have to feel grounded in that safe space. And I have learned that lesson so many times over my life, having the traumas that I went through, of like it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter who shows up for you, how often, how much love they give you. If you cannot love yourself, trust yourself, show up for yourself, it doesn't matter. There is no healing opportunity for you. And once you do love, trust, and show up for yourself, the love is coming. And
Yeah,
that's the thing that I feel like it's when it's not needed, it's there because there is no way for you to authentically love and care for another person if you're not loving and caring for yourself. And I think that's
exactly.
the biggest lesson that women right now need to hear is that in my experience, and you're saying like they got to show up, they got to be seen, they got to, step out. And this is I think a good point to end on is that you have every right and you have every um like every power in your body to show up for yourself and to not apologize for it. You
Hmm.
deserve to take up space because everybody deserves to take up space. It's not a
Exactly.
selfish thing, and you deserve to have love. You deserve to be loved by yourself, be trusted by yourself, show up for yourself, and you deserve to receive that back when you're ready. And I think
Mhm.
that that's the most powerful thing that women can do for themselves right now.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Because again, the self love, the self trust allows us to be in that space. It's as I always say, when you take the time out to restructure you, going
Hmm.
under that going under the construction of creating this new foundation for yourself, where you
Hmm.
start to look within. You're no longer concerned about, well, I want this person to love me. Well, I need that person to trust me. You get to that place where you start to trust yourself, you start to love yourself, and just like you said, Paige, it's going to start to come back at you because you're literally giving it to yourself. You've literally gotten to that point in your life where, you know what, I love myself so much that I don't need anyone else to love me because I
Hmm.
love myself that much. Everything else is just a
It's
complimentary
extra.
gift.
Yeah, it's just
Exactly. It's
bonus.
like
It's
that
just bonus.
spillover. Mm-hmm.
And it's
Exactly.
not only that, it's just you attract what you want to attract. And for women in business in general, because I'm talking to a lot of women who are in business, obviously you guys are all coaches for yourselves, but for women who work with me, they're all entrepreneurs. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
if you can release this stuff, you can you will attract naturally like
Mm-hmm.
the salary you want to have, the clients you want to have, the because the reason why you're not is it's all inside. And I think that
Exactly.
that's the most
Exactly.
powerful thing.
Exactly.
So,
Well, it falls right into the category of again self-love, self-care. Because when we love ourselves enough and we start seeing ourselves as worthy and valuable, hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Grab a conversation there. I'm gonna mute myself so I can turn this.
okay. She's answering something. What I would say is this is our time as women to just really start stepping into our own power, our own self, and to really start to explore alternative therapies. I think there is awakening right now happening where, like she said, is she's having her own style on this. She's putting her own spin on this. If you're listening to some of these other episodes, all these women who are working with other women, I would say for the most part in health or wellness in general. I'm interviewing somebody in the coming up episode who's working in Chinese medicine, and it's absolutely phenomenal the alternative ways that we're starting to explore and kind of return to, from the
Yes.
Western culture society to really what used to work and worked fine until, all of these ideas came through and like pharmaceuticals opened up and all these other stuff and all society
Exactly.
started leaching into us. But I think that this is, if you guys are listening to this, I would love for you to follow Joanne. We're gonna put her credentials on the episode, especially if you follow the YouTube channel, which is The Unspoken Truth. It's the same thing as the podcast, make it super easy for you guys to find. So if you're not subscribed to that, please go back and subscribe to that. But also, we're on all the podcast networks. Obviously, you found us on one. Make sure you're following us on the other ones. And then for Joanne, what is there a platform you prefer for people to follow you on?
They can similar as yours. They can find me on Holistic Fitness NY. It will be my YouTube channel and also Facebook, just under my name, Joanne Angel BarryColon.
I think you're only one of there's only probably one of you.
Yeah, exactly. There's only one Joanne Angel BarryColon. Type it in, and there I go.
There you go. And we'll make sure we put the links down in the YouTube description as well so people can follow you. But I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'd absolutely love to have you on again, just to kind of continue that, especially with your numerology and your astrology background. I'd even love to dive into that if you would be willing to do that. But this has been just a joy and a pleasure for me, and I just so am grateful for you to give me this time together.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I would love to come back